How you going, mate? The Dusty Bogan.
High priest.
How are you, mate? It's good to see you.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're meeting here. Yep.
Mate, I've seen your videos and I've been watching you on Facebook.
Yeah.
You're a legend, mate. Honest to God. Like, tell me about yourself. I just want to know, like, you know, I've heard you say you're like a diplomat from Congo. That's right.
I'm designate at the moment, which means that it's not formal. So on the Congo side, they've put me forward from their foreign ministry, and that's been signed off on and sent to their relevant government departments. This is a country in Africa of 80 million people. It's one of Africa's largest nations, and it's certainly the most resource-rich nation. And so in realising that we needed to A, help African nations, and B, raise a heap of capital to be able to take on these warlords that exist in these high towers, I needed to make a lot of cash. And yeah. I got my sunnies on. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Here we go.
We're getting filming on 2 cameras, so...
Yeah, we're filming on 2 cameras. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Thanks for that. Yeah, so this is... You've got a bit of a network over there in the...
Yeah, I've got a good network, and that's really my behind-the-scenes work. You know, everyone who's public has a job. They have a life that isn't in the public, and my life that isn't in the public is as a jeweller. My family have had a jewellery business for 70 years. That was set up by my pop in 1946 on his return from Changi as a POW, and you know, we've had this jewellery business up on the Sunshine Coast. And I sort of wanted to unite my platform on the world stage with the jewellery business because it just made sense. So that's effectively how I've been put forward as honorary consul, which would basically make me ambassador because there's no official representative between Australia and the DRC at the moment.
That's awesome, man. And you're right in, like, I seen your interview you put forward for the gays marching, the police marching in the gay Mardi Gras. Like, it's out of control, man. And I reckon you've got, like, that takes guts. You're standing up and you're saying, like, hang on a minute, this is going on.
Yeah. To all the cops, and here as well, Queensland cops, and to my local cops, I'm holding them all in default of their own laws. And I'm not just doing that verbally on social media or on any media. I'm doing that in writ, in law, in the Magistrates Court, in the Supreme Court, in the High Court, and very publicly to the Attorney General's office, Prime Minister, everyone. And I'm doing that because of, obviously, the background that I've had in the UK as advisor to Lord David James of Blackheath, which is work that's not connected to Safe Schools, but it is connected in the sense that same elite globalists trying to control the planet, either through Marxism with this putrid education in our kids' schools or through corruption in our banking system and in our intelligence agencies. So I am taking on ASIO.
You're taking on bloody everyone.
At once.
You're like the great Aussie spirit there, eh? You know?
You got to crack. You got to have a crack. I'm just a country lad from Gunnedah in New South Wales, you know, and I just started asking questions. And I was interested in Nikola Tesla's technology. So I started to find inventors, and then I started to go, well, we need to finance these guys. So I started to meet these high-level financiers and bankers, and then I started to learn about these banking transactions that were off balance. And so my knowledge in that had, at the height of my career in the UK, because I met at Westminster and briefed the energy minister's policy advisors on Nikola Tesla's energy. They were like, we've never heard of this guy. I'm like, he's only the guy who invented the alternating current and your energy policy advisors, and you haven't heard of him.
Step forward a bit.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
I've only got a short lead here.
Cool. So the long and short of that was that I came across these accounts. I soon learned they were CIA accounts that the CIA used to funnel their dirty money from cocaine deals in Nicaragua, heroin deals in Vietnam. That's what the wars were about there. It certainly wasn't about communism in Vietnam. It was about heroin and money.
And is that sort of what's going on with Afghanistan? They're trying to get bloody opium and stuff?
I think that's part of it.
And then oil.
Yep.
And
I don't have as much information, credible information about those specific scenarios.
It just seems like that. Like, I remember watching the bloody, you know, the 9/11 conspiracies and all this. And for years I was like, nah, the bank, it's not about banking. It's not about oil. It's not about any of them. Like, And you know what I mean? But now, you see, it's like that kind of, it's making sense, you know what I mean? Because it seems like a conspiracy theory, but bloody hell, if you keep bombing countries and going in and protecting the petrodollar, whatever it is, I mean...
And Genie Oil and Gas, which is a company that has former CIA directors and Rupert Murdoch and Rothschild on the board, is in Israeli-controlled Syria for oil.
It's all out of control. Yeah. So, like, and I seen your last video, and, like, you must have a heart for Aboriginal people, right?
100%. I think that really is about our culture. You know, look, I'm all for... look, don't get me wrong, I'm a country lad. And the Aussie bogan culture is bloody good. But we have an older culture, and that's been eradicated. And it's been eradicated in North America, and it's continuing to be eradicated. I think our roots are really important. Yeah. And I think our Indigenous are the people who will actually unite together to say, well, this is our country as well. So... And this is where I'm not really that left and I'm not really that right. In fact, I think both hands need to work together to a degree, because I don't think that bombing Syria is the right thing to do. And as a result of that, we have Syrian refugees. I don't think bringing them en masse to Australia is the right thing to do. We don't have the infrastructure to support that. I don't think keeping them in detention centres is the right thing to do. The issue then, you have to go all the way back to why we're bombing the countries and displacing them in the first place. And again, it comes back to the CIA. So how do you discredit the CIA? Well, the FBI document for Senator Edward Kennedy does a pretty bloody good job of that. And this isn't conspiracy theory, because I have friends in Washington. I have friends that are Joint Chiefs, advisors to the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Pentagon. And I ran this FBI document by her. And I said, is this an authentic document? She has friends that are seniors in the FBI. She took it to them, and she came back to me on an encrypted email and said, that's a legitimate document. That's good enough for me. And all the other evidence I have, and witnesses, and Lord James, only the guy with the highest security clearance in the UK, civilian security clearance, and was put forward by a former boss of MI6. This isn't conspiracy theory anymore. This is hardcore intelligence campaign, military intelligence, fact. And it's happening on the streets in Brisbane right now.
I'm fucking scared for my life, mate.
It's all good. It's public as. I put it everywhere. The cloud. You can go to my website, www.contactzero.org. Zero, not the number. And the information is there. You can look at my Dropbox, which I'm currently updating, which all the spy agencies have been through. I do get on the phone to ASIO on a relatively, often.
We've seen your videos, mate.
Good. Yeah. So, look, you've got to crack in. This is what I'm good at. I can't play guitar.
Bloody oath.
I was never the best football player. I used to run real fast. But I was never the best footy player, and I've never been the best builder or mechanic or any of those things. My brother's an incredible mechanic. I look up to the guy. But I was good with this. Yeah. This is my guitar. This is what I love to do. And now I've started, I'm going to take it all the way through to the end. And I won't be satisfied until I have the Attorney General, the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister, and in fact, even the CIA Director and others in a court before me. By the evidence in writ.
You're going to be like the Australian Alex Jones, mate. Infowars.
Yeah, look, Alex does good work. That's all I can say. He's certainly done a good rally cry for people to get around him. There's probably... I'd actually like to call Alex out. Alex, I thought you were Infowars, mate. Why are you ignoring the Nugan CIA drug trafficking? Alex? Alex Jones, are you listening? Alex, Infowars, I thought you would want to report fake news. I thought you wanted to report the truth, Alex. I've emailed your producers, Alex. Why aren't you touching the CIA drug smuggling? Why aren't you touching the Five-Star Trust? Why aren't you touching the trillions of dollars of Zionist money, Alex? I'd like you to answer to that, and I'm calling you out publicly, or are you too much of a pussy, Alex?
That's hardcore. That's awesome. Hopefully he gets you on Infowars, mate,
Well, I'd be happy to have this debate with him. Because what does it take to get to Alex when you know they're opening the emails, you know they've received the intelligence? Yeah. Why not actually address an issue that can affect the sort of real change that Alex says he wants? Because I have friends on one camp that says, Alex, you are controlled opposition. I have friends in another camp that love your work because you speak the truth about a lot of issues. So for the friends in the camp that think you're controlled opposition, Alex, how about you prove to us that you're not, and you pick up the Nugan Hand, Royal Commission, CIA drug trafficking, and the CIA corruption that links all the way back to former President George Bush and former CIA directors. Come on, Alex, show us where your gall is, mate.
And like one thing I love about this, right? This and to wind it back to the Aboriginals, right? Journalists need to speak up. Like we're becoming the journalists, the honest journalists, not the mainstream media that's failed us, right? Getting out the truth. Because like I was looking up something for Australia Day and because I was, you know, I'm conservative, I'm a bit in the patriot movement, and I was like, hey, look, I'd like to keep Australia Day on the 26th, but I love Aboriginal people. I think we could do a better job to honour them. So I was reading up, researching all the tragedies, the terrible things, the murders that took place, right? Yeah. But what I found was journalists back in the day were exposing these things, right? They were exposing the tragedies that were happening. And once the general public knew, that was when an end got the end of these murders and, you know, the poor treatment of Aboriginals. It began to minimise. Once the people knew, that's when it was dealt with. So the thing is, and this is talking hundreds of years ago, or you know what I mean? But it's so important. Like, it was important back then, and it's important now. Like, because, you know what, Aboriginal people, patriots, I would love to have heaps of Aboriginal people and patriots working together on these issues. Like, they're my brothers. I love them. I love their culture. Like, every patriot loves, like, Bear Grylls survival. Every bloody Aboriginal is like, that's their culture. It's the survival, live off the land, one with the land. It's amazing. And the storytelling, keeping your culture alive through storytelling, art, music, you know what I mean? And it's so metaphorical and deep. Like, I'm a Christian and I see the metaphors in there and the lessons. And sometimes you need a story or a dance and artwork in a combination to truly explain what's going on. Like, sometimes just talking isn't enough. And that's the power of these cultures, you know what I mean? And I love it. I love it as a patriot, and I love them, and we need to work together. But and I just think, like, mate, you know, when the Eureka Stockade happened, when Ned Kelly happened, when Aboriginals were being bloody shot, it was the journalists. Once the journalists exposed it, the people were like, nah, not good enough, and then change happened. Positive change happened.
The trouble with our journalists now is that they've been taken over. And I wouldn't be surprised, I have no credible evidence, but it is my hunch that producers of major news broadcasting to mainstream Australia are coached and have coaching lessons by ASIO. Because otherwise there's no free press. Even our press watchdog, there's no free press in this country. Otherwise, why wouldn't they pick up Nugan Hand in this FBI document? In fact, I had an awesome journalist I met in Manly, senior reporter for the Sydney Morning Herald, got the story, understood the crux of it. The lawyers for the Sydney Morning Herald came down and went, nah. Not doing it. Not the Sydney Morning Herald editor, the lawyers of the actual paper. So there is no free press in this country. There is one thing I want to say to the Aboriginals today, though, that if we do change the date, which I'm open to, there needs to be a point that the Aboriginal people actually get recognition and that they accept we're giving them recognition. We can't keep doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. There needs to be a point where Australians come together. They've had the apology, okay? They get given a heap of support by the government in some cases. In a lot of cases, more support than the Caucasian white man gets. And in some cases favoured in legal situations and in niche situations to get jobs because there's quotas now for black people. So if anything, sometimes the argument can be considered to be racist towards me and you. So it's not racist. What I'm saying is not racist. What I'm saying is if we do change the date, we need to create a mandate and some form of doctrine that says, that's it. No more can we play victim.
Like reconciliation.
Exactly. A proper, true, publicly accepted, national level reconciliation. Otherwise, we're going to keep having this victim mentality, and Aboriginals are better than that. They're not victim. They're distinct members of the Australian, indelible members of Australian history, and they're the very foundations of the Dreamtime and of a spirituality that's far more exotic, I believe, in some cases, than even Christianity. That's going to upset a few Christians.
Well, I'm a Christian, and I think the thing is they're tapping into what we're all tapping into. Like, 100%. We'll see, like I do exclusively believe Jesus is the saviour. Like, that makes me a Christian, but I understand the spiritual nature of mankind. Like, we have a heart for spirituality, and Aboriginal people are outworking their spirituality, and they're telling these stories. They're handing down generational wisdom. Like, it's a beautiful and powerful thing, and where this Christian stories and the Aboriginal stories, they come so close. They come so close in so many different areas.
The reconciliation we're talking about, because what the Christians did to the Aboriginals was heinous. And there's a lot of pain there, and there's a lot of hurt there. So we need to find a way to heal that pain, to bring recognition to that pain and hurt. But we never can truly heal as a nation while we have the same leaders in their high towers continuing to perpetuate the us and them war, which is why I'm going after the big dogs and their multi-trillion-dollar accounts. Because if you take a guy out or a layer of an organisation, they're going to keep popping up. If you go after their treasure, their black collateral money, no more castle. I'm going after their treasure. And I've got the account numbers. Everyone can look for themselves. They're free to debate me. If they don't think it's real, debate me.
That's hard, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly defend Christianity a little bit there. Sorry, I can't help myself. Because I believe Christians always fail when we don't... It's always when we're out of step with Jesus, Christians are failing. You know what I mean? Across the board, when kids got bloody pedophiled, or there was a crusade, or any of this bad stuff, we've stepped away from Jesus. We're not following Jesus' example. Do you know what I mean? It's despite we're calling ourselves Christians, and we're fucking spitting in the face of Jesus. Really, like, we're not being Christian when we step outside of doing the right thing. You know, we're supposed to be empowered with a spiritual life as a Christian, and when we're bloody
it's hard to do that when, look at Vietnam, conscription. This is where you've really got to get to who's controlling the international narrative and agenda. Because if this war wasn't really about communism, which, let's face it, it can't have been, because here we are in 2018 putting communist doctrine into our schools, then who's creating these wars and who's profiting from both sides of the war? And that's who we need to hold accountable. And that's what I believe this intelligence that sits in the Dropbox, and I've got hard copies and in safes and everywhere I can think of, is doing.
Do you think, like, I've often thought to myself, like, these people they're just in love with control. It doesn't matter if it's communism, if it's the king or the queen, or, like, Western civilization. We fought like hell, the people, to, get freedom. And then it's like, we fought the bloody Nazis, we fought the communists, and now we're, like, getting shackled again. And it's control. Some people, they're just in love with control. They're like, it's, we call it the nanny state, but the thing is, we're throwing away our freedom, you know what I mean? Like, individuality and freedom of choice, like, they say multiculturalism. Well, multiculturalism is dying. Doesn't matter the colour of your skin. Yeah, well, the thing is all they want is their little cultural Marxism, and you can't be a Christian, you can't be a conservative, you can't be any of it.
Or because theological doctrine says that it's a man and a woman. And so because of that, they don't feel included in the religion that still, at the end of the day, and I've said this today in my speech, is that at the end of the day, common law and the Crown law is still under God. So whether they want to believe that God exists or God doesn't exist, the only way police can enforce jurisdiction in Australia lawfully is by oath to the Queen. The Queen gave oath to God and Christendom, period. So that's where power flows from. So as far as I'm concerned, our law, our very society, we don't have the luxury of believing God doesn't actually even exist, or that Christian society isn't at the heart of our society, which it is, because it's in our law. And legislature isn't above our Crown law, which is, we're a Commonwealth country, and until we're a republic, that's the facts.
Like one thing I think we're missing is like when are we limiting government's power? Like the limiting of power from government, it's just non-existent. It's not in the minds of so many people. It's just not in their mind. Like, you know, what made America great was that they had limited power. The government had limited power. That's why we got rid of the monarchies. Yep. Do you know what I mean? We made them symbolic and we limited the power of government. And now that's what made Western culture good. Yep. Now it's fucking going down the toilet because we're giving them too much power, and we're giving it to them. I can't speak
for anyone else, and I can't speak for anything else that's happening. But in regards to me, just as a man, as a flesh and blood man in this country today, I am in the process of saying to them, here is this evidence. You are now involved in terrorism. In fact, I've got evidence that shows that Commonwealth of Australia has participated and collaborated in support of ISIS in Syria. Fact. Not only have they done that, they've covered up large-scale drug dealing using Australian Bank as a money laundering operation. And rather than investigate that and just have the basic decency to say, okay, we need to do something about this, they've completely defaulted. So in holding the Commonwealth of Australia and all of its agencies in default, lawfully, until they can come against me and argue and rebut my case in writ and in the magistrate's jurisdiction and in the Supreme Court jurisdiction and in the High Court jurisdiction, I am actually in writ beginning the process of limiting their power and making them accountable to a public voice. And until they can come back and say, oh, we didn't do this, or here's our evidence that says this doesn't happen, my evidence stands as supreme. That's how our law works. And they know how powerful it is, which is why they haven't come against me, which is why I can abuse ASIO, ASIS, the police, threaten them. And no one comes against me. They're terrified of me.
Just leave old Dusty alone, eh?
Leave Dusty alone. The information's public. Yeah.
All right. Well, mate, I really appreciate your time.
Pleasure. Yours too, mate.
Great. And you did a bloody great speech. I'm pretty sure they caught it. Great. My crappy camera wasn't good enough.
No, that's great.
But, mate, God bless. Thank you so much.
And I look forward to sharing more as the situation evolves further. And let's protect our kids. That's why we're here today. That's what fathers have to do in this country. That's what mums have to do in this country. And that's what men who will be fathers, or at least who would be patriots, have to do in their country today. Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thank you. I hope we